You're live. Okay, I was going to make this one of those Q&A videos and do it later in the week, but I hate it when I'm always putting the thing off and then losing my train of thought and forgetting a bunch of things I wanted to discuss. Although this one, I mean, as I said in the description, technically this is a video I should be doing in mid-December, not mid-October, right? Because the year isn't over yet, but I already spent money and bought stuff, right? Starting in, about June or whatever. So the one pair of boots I had said that I ordered them in February, that was actually in the 12 boot video roundup or whatever. Those were actually the girl. I talked to the girl and the receptionist or whatever, and I tried to nail it down and I forgot. So I went back through my emails. Turns out the boots that I'm waiting for the rebuild are actually the ones that I did buy last year at Black Friday sale. So technically they weren't part of the no buy year. They were before I even started the no buy year, and I knew it was a big expensive purchase toward the end of the year, which I don't usually, try and do that as a rule of thumb or whatever. But to take advantage of the sale. So the other pair that I got in January, I had ordered way back in like August or something, but there was overlap in the emails and I got all confused. So technically that $700-ish was from the previous year. But of course, put that pair of boots together with the bean boots that I just did the review of, last night or this morning or earlier or whenever it was. That's not quite $300. So there's $1,000 right there. So a no buy year where you've already spent $1,000 on 2 pairs of shoes. Again, not the norm for most people, but I didn't buy like 30 pairs of boots this year. And most of the boots I bought last year were not expensive, but some of them were, because I got like 3 pairs of Nicks and 2 pairs of whites or something. So, I mean, that was a pretty significant chunk. Because the one pair of Nicks was like closer to 800, I forget. I don't remember exactly. That was earlier in the year, and then I got 2 pairs of the Packer boots or whatever, one to kind of try them on, and one in the prettier leather, which was the January pair, this year, that finally arrived in January, but again was last year's purchase, blah, blah, blah. So then in the summer, I was going to do this list last. So then in the summer, I bought some souvenir t-shirts, though. And then I didn't even add up all my travel expenses, though, because instead of buying stuff, I did travel stuff. And that probably cost even more than buying this stuff with technically less to show for it, because at least $400 on motel rooms, right? But I did get a couple of bargains there. Although the one night, I think, was like $300, but then they refunded the $100 for the deposit or whatever it was. And then I still had $50 in toll fees for the Golden Gate Bridge and all that. And then gas, let's not even count the gas, because gas was ridiculous in California this year. And not cheaper really in Oregon either, or maybe a little cheaper in Arizona. I don't remember. So yeah, I'm skipping the travel. We're going to pretend that didn't happen. But then after doing all that, I needed brakes for my car, and I still need to do the rear brakes. So that's at least $500 or whatever right there. Again, that we're not counting as stuff, because you can't have a car that doesn't have brakes. And the mechanic, I forgot to tell the joke, even said a car that won't stop is worse than a car that won't run. Right? So there you go. So the one, I was watching this other woman's video about her declutter process, and then a different one about her, she only did a no by month, but she did like a week declutter thing. She had done a thing where she kind of lined up. I didn't do it quite the same way. Can you read that yet? She had done an algorithm thing where she was going to declutter 1,000 items, based on the challenge where if you do cumulative, it's like 465. So day 1, you get rid of 1 thing. Day 2, you get rid of 2 things. I had started this back in April, I think it was, and I didn't, and I might have done it before last year briefly, and I never finished. To me, it's the opposite. I think it's easier if you start with 30 items and work your way down to one than starting with one and then trying to come up with more and more and more. What she did instead was she did zones. I know I'm jumping around a bit because we're talking about declutter now instead of no buy, but it's all related, right? So what she did was zones, and then every time she would declutter an area and come up with a number of things, she would just go to the board and cross off that particular number, almost like a bingo card, until she had filled in all the numbers. So I don't know if she cheated on some numbers, like, oh, I already had 44, so I'll add a thing from the bathroom and call it 45 so I can cross off that, or I'll call it 43 and make it up later. I don't know exactly what, the scheme was there. But you can kind of make up your own. So if you go to 20 days or 20 things, though, as I said, that will take you about literally to 200. I didn't use a calculator. I just eyeballed it. And so it was like, okay, so the first 1, 2, 3, 4 is about 10. Then 5 and 6 is 11, which is almost 10. Then 7 and 8 is, 15. And then 9 and 10 is 19, which is almost 20, or, as it says up here, 45-ish. And then you add the next group to the 45, and you get 110. So if you did 20 days instead of 30 days, you'd be decluttering about 200 things, okay? Which is, barely going to make a dent in the average house, which is why they want you to do the full. But she was saying that if you go for too long, you lose focus, you lose your momentum. That's why a week she did extra declutter in less time for more maximum impact, and that's great. But again, you'd have to work that out for yourself. I think decluttering 500 things in a week for the average borderline hoarder will be nearly impossible anyway. So see how that goes. And of course, you don't want separation anxiety where you turn around and shop more after, blah, 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 the usual thing. And of course, I'm going to rebuttal her on page 2. We'll come back to her. In the meantime, to speak about my own personal no-buy year, which again, as we've partly discussed, kind of ended in June, technically anyway. But I didn't go overboard with a lot of unessential things. I did buy a lot of t-shirts, and I already have a lot of t-shirts, and I already don't wear a lot of my t-shirts, but I did also declutter several shirts already. I did not end up decluttering any shoes, as I said in the other video. And I didn't buy very much household kind of stuff at all. I did get recently, this was about $80. I got some Charlie Brown stuff because I like Charlie Brown stuff. And so once a year, I end up usually getting a little bit of Charlie Brown stuff. I don't want to show all of them, but I don't want to drop this in glass. But these are just glasses, and so there was like a set of 4, and I'll just show the one if I can get it out of the wrapper without too much trauma. So Halloween kind of stuff, Great Pumpkin. Not the kind of thing I buy every week, not the kind of thing I buy necessarily even every year, although I've bought a couple sets similar to this. And, well, let me see. Yeah, all right. I'll show this one, I guess, and maybe that one. I'll show most of them, I guess, after all. But so here's Charlie Brown being a pirate and Lucy being the witch. And, whether or not I ever actually use these glasses is more, they're collector-y-ish, but I think they're an okay size for certain age children. Whatever, but. And then, if I'm going to buy this stuff, I might as well enjoy showing it because this is part of the design decor. Here's Snoopy as a vampire. So since I put it in that playlist too, certain things are technically home furnishings more than decorations, but it's all kind of in the same category for me because I don't do too much. Oh, and then here you got Linus and Sally in the pumpkin patch. So very Halloween, very October, very happy holiday. And so that's one of my childhood, things is the Great Pumpkin and all that. And so I wanted these last minute. Not a total impulse buy. Oops. And then to go with that, there was the tin. I showed my Christmas tin or whatever it was last year. I'm not sure where that is right now. So this tin, you had your choice of chocolate or the other candy. But it turns out that if you bought the chocolate separate, even though it was expensive, then you could get the free shipping. So I bought the Halloween chocolate balls to go in the pack, and then the other Jelly Bellies that came with the pack I will never ever eat. I'm sure they're terrible, and some kid might enjoy them that I will never want to have indulged. So it's almost the same kind of Linus and Sally in the pumpkin patch, but with also Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and here's the Snoopy and I like tins like these theoretically to put junk in them later. And I don't know where I had some other glasses. Some similar set, and I'm not positive where. Oh, these. I'm not going to open this one again, but these were bigger glasses and probably cost less. But I don't know what year I got them. A little dusty. I need to. I'm not going to open this, but I think I showed them. I think I showed them in a previous video or something like that. I know I showed those tins at some point. Last Christmas, probably. Anyway, sorry to diverge us to make the more of the experience. Okay, so anyway, t-shirts, hats. I did buy a couple hats. I did, show the photo of this one. I was wearing it earlier in the other video for a minute, but I was starting to get a bit sweaty, so I took it off. But that hat, I bought that beach one that I wore like all summer in those other videos. So to go back to the list, so 2 shirts and the hat at the one beach was about $100. Major League Baseball shirts that haven't come yet because they were just recently on sale. I got one showed up, so I'm gonna do a photo and talk about it later. I got a Mariners one for only $25 or whatever, or maybe this one was the one that was 27. So they were discounted to the price of what shirts should be. And of course, I like nautical crap, so. But I don't like the sleeves on that one. They're cut wrong, so already it's like, yeah, I saved money, but it was the only way to get that color. But the shirt is kind of crap. Thanks, Nike. Made in El Salvador. Or no, Nicaragua. Sorry, Nicaragua. I'm not good at pronouncing Spanish the way they do it on the TV news. But I try. Brakes, crazy. Okay, so then the other one I did show all the photos, or most of the photos, or most of the items in the photos, I should say, in the community menu of the crazy shirts. That was about $500 though, because I bought 2 pairs of the pants instead of just one. I bought the extra pair of pants just to, again, save on the shipping. It's like, okay, get them here all at once. And then, so bean boots, crazy shirts, Major League Baseball. So right there, that's $1,000. Again, 2 pairs of boots if we want to count last year's Knicks boots. Another $1,000, right? Or sorry, I counted wrong. So that's $2,000 for that. Then t-shirts from the beach, Charlie Brown stuff, another $200. T-shirts from Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. Well, it was a hat from Texas, not a shirt. $30 or whatever it was. 24 plus tax, something like that. 25. 25 says so on the tag. So those shirts were not expensive though. That Willie Nelson one was like $20, and the New Mexico one was like $22 or something. So round up, say $100. So 200 more there. Charlie Brown, $80. So really not terrible, right? I mean, like I said, except for the 2 pairs of boots, or except for the 1 pair of boots, which was technically last year, we're not overbuying too badly, except that I already own a ton of stuff, right? And again, I didn't declutter as much as I thought I would. Back in the second declutter I gave up early, it kind of fizzled. The first declutter I was doing pretty well, and I think I got about 15 days in and did declutter about the right amount of items for most of those days. But the second declutter then got made up for big time because, as I talked about in the autumn reset video, there was an estate sale, and I got to put a bunch of stuff in that sale without actually having to have my own yard sale. And some of the stuff sold for dirt cheap, and some of the stuff got donated to Goodwill, and I didn't get any money for it. But I cleared out of I cleared out of a significant amount of stuff, and I don't even have a full count of which stuff sold and which stuff didn't, and what money I got for which stuff. But I was, the woman who did the sale didn't itemize them all completely accurately and everything, and their pricing schemes, I talked about all this in the other video. But anyway, as far as decluttering go, I got rid of, I'm not counting them now on screen because it would take forever, but I got rid of a bunch of stuff. So the second declutter, I think, was even more significant than the one where I tried to do it by the numbers, as is. So not a total failure, not a total failure. So then in the video, like I said, I'm doing this all out of order, how I was going to do it, but whatever, we already covered that, so we're good. And we already showed the Charlie Brown, and we already showed the hat, and we already showed the shirts, and everything is all in the community menu. I took photos of all that stuff to document my failed no-buy year, to compound with my failed declutter challenge, right? But yeah, I got 40% off, like I said, these shirts as opposed to the other shirts where I paid full price and they were all $40 a piece. So spending, again, $500 on shirts is not the norm. That was kind of a one-time, every 3 years or something. I usually spend about $300 with that company every couple of years, and the inflation has made it $500 instead of $300. So that's kind of still typical for me with them. Even though I have a bunch of their shirts I haven't worn, I still wear their shirts, more often than some of the other shirts. So why do a no buy? She wanted you to have a positive affirmation reason for why. Obviously, the main one for all of us should be save money, and then get out of debt if you are in debt. If you're not in debt, it's probably a miracle. But I've gotten most of the way out of debt this year. Again, I had a couple setbacks with the brake job and the motel rooms or whatever, but not as insurmountable as, previous years in, history or whatever. And then, of course, not technically part of the no-buy year, but I put declutter also as related, hence this video, or the chunks of this video. To set yourself some rules. If you're going to have a no-buy year or a low-buy year or a month, obviously we have to separate what's essential from what's non-essential. So obviously food is usually at the top of the list. Car maintenance, again, that's more essential than maybe a third pair of sneakers, whatever, how you want to count that. Yada, yada, yada. Categories, making categories for the stuff. I don't go that granular. I mean, I know like I said, clothes is one of a lot of our addictions. Shoes is one of a lot of our addictions. So that's where we kind of fudge it, because we say, well, it's an essential, even though I have 6 pairs of jeans already, right? So it's kind of lame to say, oh, well, a category of clothes if you're buying casual, fun clothes versus work clothes, right? But you don't want your whole wardrobe to be work clothes. Almost nobody does. So there is, some leeway there. But you don't need casual clothes, man. Right. Okay, sure. 3 was remove temptation. She was just saying delete your apps from your phone and that way it won't be window shopping and that kind of thing. I don't worry about it when I'm interested in stuff. Like lately, I've been looking at all the mock toe upland boots, and I bought the one pair but it wasn't a total impulse buy. It was the pair I'd been looking at for a year or two already that I almost bought last year for sure. I don't remember about the year before, but last year they were on sale and I was very tempted to get them and I didn't because I had just got some other pair that weren't the same thing, but they were, I think it was the Packer boots. So I was like, oh, well, I just got the Packer boots, so I'm not going to buy the upland boots. This year, I was looking at, like I said in just a video a few hours ago, between Rose Anvil and some other people, I've been looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different companies who make mock toe upland boots, none of whom are LL Bean. So instead of buying the $700 Russells or the $600 Gokis or the, I don't know, $300 GH Bass or whatever these other ones, the $400 Easy Mocks, I bought the $230 LL Bean ones that aren't as nice as these in some ways or whatever, but are closer to my price range. And I was curious about the kangaroo leather, and if I don't like them, I can send them back within a year as opposed to being stuck with another custom purchase, right? So that, not all of these companies are strictly custom though. But typically, as I've complained, the less expensive footwear, usually the sizing is more correct and I don't have to deal with it. Whereas the more I spend, the harder it seems to be to nail down. And so that's been kind of annoying, but good for me to be able to pass the information on to viewers like you, whoever the hell you are, the one person who might watch this. So remove temptation, and then 4, again, stay engaged. Again, why the shorter time frame. Now with a no buy year, though, either you're gonna last a year or you're not. Obviously, I didn't. Obviously, I wasn't trying that hard, but it was mostly, again, small purchases until very recently because $100 in 2 shirts and a hat. I didn't need either of those shirts. I didn't need another hat, but it's that's the other trap, right? It's only $100. It's like, yeah, true. It's cumulative. It adds up. Now that $100 could have gone toward the breaks or the, other motel room or whatever. But because I bought those shirts before I even went on the first trip. And yet I did wear the hat a lot and, or at least for these videos, and I still have the shirts. I don't totally regret that. We'll come back to that in a minute. Like I said, the regret purchase here, if any of them was a regret purchase, again, the closest would be the crazy shirts because they were all full price. But again, that's the kind of purchase I make from them semi-routinely anyway. Suck it up. They're the only ones who have the designs that I like. That I usually don't wear design shirts much. I usually wear a plain t-shirt if I wear any t-shirt. So if I am going to buy a design shirt, I want it to be something that I like to look at. So that's that. Do I need it? No. Do I want it? Sometimes, yes. So impulse purchases, like I said, except for the Charlie Brown stuff kind of popping up last minute, none of these were. Well, I guess technically the one hat and the one shirt was an impulse purchase, and the other 2 were souvenirs, so they were semi-impulse, but I wanted something from the trip to, prove that I had been on the trip. But again, one Willie Nelson was $20 and the hat was $25 plus tax. So $50 on a road trip. I'm lucky I didn't have to do the brake job during the road trip. That's, different story, separate video. What does this say? Skipped price, impulse purchase, skipped plus price. I think she was saying when you skip these purchases, you're supposed to write it down so you can see how much money you saved afterward. Okay, I'm not doing that either. Like, no, that's putting thought into it after the fact. Because some of the time, yeah, I'm telling you right now, oh, I didn't buy the bean boots last year, but then I turned around and bought them again this year anyway, or now this year anyway. I didn't buy the other pair of the whites boots, but I might buy them later anyway. I didn't get the OT boots rebuilt by Frank's yet because they're still perfectly good, but later on down the road, I might still do that. So if I'm counting it as money saved now and it's money I end up spending anyway later, it might actually be more money with inflation. And I'll be like, oh man, it would have only been $300 if I had got those boots rebuilt last year. Now it's going to be $580. Plus the shipping cost went up again because gas went up again, that kind of thing. So sometimes you actually hurt yourself by not doing the thing when you first want to do it. So like I said, I always kind of rebut these things, grain of salt. 5, identify reason to shop, replacement habit or something. Yeah. I think that's what it says. She was talking about like emotional shopping and this and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that's invalid because I think that's a big part of a lot of people's problems. Oh, like here, Goki was $440 and Russell add $300 to that. So even if Goki is not as good of the boot and the cost per wear thing, that equation that everybody tries to use their little abacus to make it, but if I bought the Russells and I wore them 3 extra days a week, I would have saved 30 cents. Like, don't do that. If you can't afford, an $800 boot and a $400 boot will suit you, then fine. Is there a big difference in work boots, again, between a $120 boot and a $400 boot? Yes, the $400 boot is way better. If you can get it, get it. Unless you're doing something where you're going to destroy the boots and throw them away. In which case, don't spend $400 on a pair of boots. Buy the $90 boots and discard them. So it's kind of related to that. Don't beat yourself up afterward. But see, a lot of people like to comparison shop before, and I do that to a degree because, like I said, I'm comparing the whites to the nicks and this and that, and what's the benefits. And she was saying that gives you a lot of decision fatigue, whereas if you just went to a thrift store and bought a thing used, it'll probably work just as well for a fraction of the price. And with some items, that's true. And with other items, that's absolutely false. That absolutely doesn't work. Like custom MTO heavy-duty work boots. You can't go to a thrift store and find those. They're not there. Or if they are, they're not in your size. They're in 13F or something. I've never really found shoes at a thrift store. I've seldom found pants that actually fit me correctly at a thrift store. Shirts, on the other hand, yes, you can find a bunch of shirts, but they might be stained. They might have, the collar's already kind of raggedy looking. So it depends on your job. I've talked about all this before. So again, grain of salt. And women's clothes is different than men's clothes too, which is a whole other rabbit hole I run down every other stupid video. But she was saying keep a running wish list so that you're not buying stuff one piece at a time. At the end of the week, go through, figure out which you actually do need, which you don't, and make all the purchase at that time. And that's probably an okay strategy. But again, I run into the problem with, like I said, stuff being on sale. If I don't get it now, I'm never going to get it. Or stuff on eBay. Somebody else might come along and snipe it if you don't grab it up. I'll often pay the buy it now price instead of the auction. I know I'm paying extra. I don't care. Or the new feature, the make an offer. I'm on the fence if I love it or hate it. As a buyer, I like it because he has the option to counter. And then if I think he's still too high, I can just walk away, right? Depends. But as a seller, I absolutely hate that make an offer feature. It's really insulting. It's like, no, I put the price that the thing is worth. Just after the shipping and the taxes and eBay takes their cut and crap, it all evens out. Pay my price or leave me alone. Like I don't do the to put it low and then hope they bid it up and all that. I used to try that and it never worked. Now I just put everything for about the price I think it's worth. Buy it now or go away. Yeah, so if you want a bunch of bulk, maybe you get a discount on the shipping, yada yada. Anyway, so as an eBay buyer, on the other hand, it's hard for me because I know what the thing is kind of worth, and so I feel kind of guilty probing them too low, depending on the item again. Like the one thing, I feel like I got an okay deal on the boots, but I don't feel like they were in as good of condition as the price I necessarily paid. But I could tell they hadn't been worn much. It was just that they had tried to put a wax treatment or something on them, and it made them look kind of bad. But overall, they're brand new boots. So it was kind of like, well, I doubt he's going to go as low as like $300 or $400 or something. So I'm not going to even try because he's got them listed at 800 though. And there's no way I'm paying 800 when I can get a comparable shoe from them for $200 less. And I already know that. I just can't get it this week. I'll have to wait 4 months or whatever. Focus on wins. So again, not buying something should be considered a win instead of a, oh man, but again, in the moment, are you thinking that way? She's trying to get you to retrain your brain, and I'm less motivational about that kind of thing because it's an uphill battle when you're, like I said, just kind of in the moment and going with the flow. And like I said, you can't always be a bean counter. It's a little easier to be a bean counter at a thrift store because you're looking at the condition versus the price. Whereas a new item, it's kind of like, well, that's the price. I can't haggle with J.C. Penney. They don't care. Please leave. buy it or don't. Or Kohl's or any place like that. The prices aren't that high comparatively to other brands. Anyway, yada yada yada. So either you can afford a new shirt or you can't, right? Then there was 8 mantras. Oh, there was one funny part where she had said she had got a time-saving device and organizational devices also that have backfired or failed. But this one, it was something about magnets, and the magnets was supposed to be to group what the kids' chores were or something. But the kids, being too young to really care about any of this, would come and play with the magnets and move the magnets around. So she was blaming the magnets on being a failed thing when it was actually, no, I know you don't want to throw your kids under the bus, but your issue is with your kids, not the magnets. Keep the magnets away from the kids, and the thing might actually perform the way it's supposed to. That's their behavior, not the poor inanimate object that is just doing its job. Identify reason to shop and replace the shopping habit. Whatever, I weirdly said that. Okay, so the mantras. Again, who's saying this to themselves while they're in the moment? Nobody. But again, retraining your thoughts, I guess. I have enough, which I have more than enough. I don't care. I bought 5 shirts anyway. Do I want to look rich or be rich? This was kind of a dig against the old money thing, but I think she was misunderstanding the old money thing. Because part of the whole point, I talked about this just in the decline of Dark Academia video from yesterday or the day before. Part of the idea behind the old money thing is to look good on a low budget whenever possible and get the thing that isn't the exact thing, but that does pretty well for how much you paid for it. That's different than the quiet luxury aesthetic where they are not drawing attention to themselves with lots of Ralph Lauren polo label logos and things like this. Nothing ostentatious, but they're getting the $700 cashmere sweater, not the $70 merino wool one. Personally, I actually prefer the merino wool one. You couldn't convince me that the $700 one is worth the money anyway. Even if I wasn't doing a no buy challenge mantra or whatever, I just want the sweater that I think is warmer and more durable. But again, the quiet luxury person can recognize, ooh, that's a real cashmere sweater. This person is not, a slob masquerading as, elite society, hoity-toity, whatever. So, but obviously the principle there is, the more money you save, the more money you have. So rather than buying ostentatious things or other things to try and have an image, you'll have more money in the bank. But on the other hand, like I said, I think that the whole point of old money and things like that is to still look better than, you came from the bargain bin, even though you spent more than you would have spent in the bargain bin, but you didn't spend that much more that it was, all horrible. I mean, this is not, obviously I'm not wearing anything too stylish right here. It's just a regular camp shirt, but it is a nice lightweight camp shirt. So it did cost me a little bit more, and, it's a little more breathable for the warmer weather. So if I want something like that, I have to know where to shop for it instead of getting I don't have any of me. Oh, no. Wrong cloth. But the other ones that make me sweat even more that I always complain about. Because I own a bunch of the Oxford cloth shirts and I like them. But I live in California. I only get to wear them like 2 or 3 months out of the year comfortably most of the time. And then it's either too cold or too hot. So it's like, I don't know why I have so many of these things that I don't really get to wear, when this summer I was wearing, linen blend, or this one's 100% linen, I think. And in the autumn and such, I wear more canvas. And it's durable and it lasts forever, but it's definitely not the same thing as an Oxford cloth shirt. It's a work shirt, not a, nice collegiate preppy shirt. It's office casual. Business. Anyway. Discipline now or regret later. So that's another mantra. Again, do I have any real regrets here? No. I wasn't completely disciplined, but overall for the whole year, like I said, I already know I have a whole bunch of stuff. So I wasn't on the hunt for anything too run of the mill. I wanted a couple souvenir kind of things, and I, like I said, the Charlie Brown stuff is like a one-off purchase, not a every single month I get a new Charlie Brown thing for $80 or whatever. Messed up. It's okay for your slip ups. Again, none of these were technically slip ups. So they were just purchases. Like I said, could I have saved $1,000 out of this $2,000, maybe even more? Sure, I could have just not bought anything. Hence the no buy year, but I felt like buying some stuff, so I did. So I'm not, regret in. Yes, it's okay because like I did it, it's done. Easier with less options. The frog boiling in the water scenario. Yeah, this was about getting dressed, I think. The closet cleaning, and she was saying that if you have too many things in your closet, I hear this argument a lot, and I always say that I disagree with it because, again, I organize my clothes seasonally. I've said this. That's why I make monthly videos about my resets. About, okay, I'm not going to wear cowboy outfits this month. I'm going to wear sailor outfits this month and go through those clothes, and yada yada yada. Because they're more options, but they're options within a theme or a category or whatever. And as I've said before, based loosely kind of on laundry day, what can I wash? Like I can wash this shirt, even though it has more brown, with gray underwear and gray socks. So perfect. They can all go in the wash together. Where, blue stuff can go in the wash together. Green stuff can go in the wash together. So I kind of do that a lot. And I have lots of options, and I don't always wear all my options. And I'm trying to work on that just from a storage point of view, more than a finding that one thing in the haystack thing. This year, I could not find one Madras shirt similar to this, but the yellow one. I'm not sure where that went, which really annoyed me because at the end of summer, I really wanted to find it, and I tore up half the garage, and I still haven't found it. That's a peeve. Okay. That's the kind of thing we want to avoid. But one shirt, that's not the end of the world. I still have this one and that other one, and I'm fine. I'll find it next spring, probably when I'm least looking for it and go, oh, here it is. It was here all the time. Oops. That's usually how it works. And that's how I found the one pair of pants that I was about to say. I think, or maybe there was two pair of pants I couldn't find. And turns out it was right underneath this other pair of pants, and I just didn't see them when I went through the stack. And the third time I was like, I was reorganizing that stack for a different reason. I was like, oh, they were here the whole time. It may have been the khaki shorts. I forget. But something like that. It was something stupid like that. So 3 days later, I found them. So it didn't like take all year to find the stupid shorts or whatever it was. So I don't have that bad of an organizational problem, but it is a lot of stuff to move around when you have, the summer versions of everything and then the winter versions of everything. Because again, I do like to be over prepared, and I do like winter clothes, and I don't get to wear the winter clothes all that often, so I complain about that every single year. That kind of thing. But price versus differences too subtle. Oh, this has nothing to do with the video. This is about white boots. Okay, never mind. Tips and tricks. So these were, yeah, so there were some tips and tricks. I didn't write them all down. There was like 5 of them or something. I think the mantras kind of covered most of that. Speaking of the whites boots, though, talking about decision fatigue, that's where that came in. Yeah, I had a lot of trouble going through them and trying to figure out why this one is $200 more than this one, but this one has the arch port, this one doesn't. I still haven't figured it all out. But then when I went into the menu, I saw that they were all custom build. None of them were ready to ship, so I couldn't even do a custom build now because I don't even know the correct fit. So question is moot. Moving on. Not buying any of these boots right now until I had a better conversation with them. I typically want to shorten the hot. I don't know what that HWT stands for now. So this is what I'm talking about forgetting what I was talking about. Want to own options without having to wade through shopping them all. Yes. Shorten the wait. I don't know what this was meant to refer to. Oh, I think it's the hunt. She was saying about the hunt. Okay, so that's supposed to be a U. I can't read my own writing. Yeah, the decision fatigue thing. She was saying that the thrill of the hunt is why we're buying this stuff, not the actual acquisition of the thing and owning the thing. For me, that's not entirely true. I like having the thing. So, nope. If it was just the hunt, I'd go window shopping all the time and not be sitting at home buying stuff online. Because women like to go physically shopping. I hate it. Like, you bring it to my house, I try it on. If I don't like it, I send it back. And some people, I guess that's a problem because they end up with more of the things than they need that don't fit quite right or whatever. I have that problem less than a third of the time. I don't really have a problem getting around to sending most of it back. Once in a while, I keep an extra thing. Well, sometimes I get stuck with a thing like those baseball hats last year where they were clearance items, and I still ended up bullying them enough till they allowed me to return 3 or 4 of them and exchange the odd one or whatever it was. I ended up with one that's a size too small because they were sold out of it in the other size. So I was like, well, if I want this design, I have to keep the hat that doesn't quite fit, kind of thing, and just suck it up. But again, I got the hat for a pretty good discount. Convenience, illusion, and marketing. So she was saying again, buying new, that was the big thing, versus used. This was from a separate video. The illusion is that it's more convenient than buying the thing used. This was my rebuttal, though, where I made that other page. Yeah, here. That was to say productivity, spending, and other types, emotional. I don't know that productivity. I don't know what that refers to. I guess feeling like you accomplished something because you bought a thing instead of going home empty-handed. I'm not positive. It's all related. Anyway, yeah, shop online equals more decision fatigue, new versus used. But, and what I was saying earlier about the boots, if I need something extra specific or more than one, here's the thing about thrift stores. You might find one great shirt there and it was only $8 instead of 60 or whatever. But they're not going to have duplicates most of the time. And if you have a job where you need duplicates, is it actually easier to buy from Charles Turret where you get 3 for $100 or whatever? Yeah, kind of no brainer. Like, yeah, it cost me more, but they're clean, they're crisp, they're new, they came in a bundle. I didn't have to hunt for 3 that looked kind of good, that were kind of similar, that were kind of used. So I don't, like I said, I don't buy a lot of used clothing anymore. I don't care how many of these videos they make telling me that I'm making the mistake of my life. No. I used to buy at thrift stores all the time when I was younger, and I gave up on purpose. Yeah, she said her friend had a new job and needed clothes for that job. Well, again, if I'm starting a new job and I need clothes for that job, 1, I want them to look nice. 2, I want them to all fit the same and be the same. And if that costs me, more money, then that's life. The job hopefully will make me back that money. Kind of the whole reason you got the job in the first place was so you could buy stuff. New, faster or safer is often the reason for buying new. Well, yeah, that's legitimate. Like I just said that. She was trying to discount it, but I'm saying there's obviously exceptions to either rule, either way you want to go with it. And so my rebuttal is many things I will buy new. I won't buy a used hat much. I don't want it after it's been on your disgusting head. I won't buy used underwear much. Or socks. Those aren't super expensive items again, though, either. But a used suit, if it's already been tailored, it's been tailored to somebody else, so it might be never able to quite tailor to me either. So another thing where I might have to suck it up is just a matter of principle. Then she said the furniture thing. Again, going back to decor instead of wardrobe. She was saying she does not like to buy new furniture as much because used furniture, but she has young children. So, of course, her use case scenario is slightly different. They're going to get damaged, blah, blah. But I have problems with furniture. I don't buy a lot of assembly required furniture either because I don't like to. But a lot of assembled furniture won't fit in my front door. And I have some stuff that won't fit down the hallway. Like I found a dresser used at a yard sale for like $60 and it's real wood or whatever. And I hate to admit that it's currently still in the living room because it can't go anywhere else. And I have a really nice desk that I got from my cousin several years ago that is still in the garage because I cannot get it in the house, even through a sliding glass door or anything. I've tried. Won't fit. I'm not going to try and disassemble it and put it back together because I know it'll get messed up. So, yeah. So some assembly required furniture is kind of the way. I was annoyed. I think I talked about this in one of the videos. I had tried to buy the same racks that Dale's Leather uses for his boots. And I have one of them in the other room, and I never put the boots in it. I ended up putting shirts in it. And I tried to buy a second one, and Amazon sent me the wrong one. And now both products are discontinued. You can't get them, and I can't even return the one that's the wrong one. So I put it together, and it's like this stupid, flimsy piece of crap that also has some shirts on it, but not nearly as much as the other one would have. So I might try to use that for boots one of these days, but I can only put like one pair of boots on each thing, so it would be kind of a waste of space. So yeah, that's annoying because those were supposed to be my miracle salvation. But the argument that, and she was stealing it from somebody else. It was somebody else's line because I saw another guy saying it in the video. He was saying your home is not a storage unit. And most people buy a bigger house to keep more stuff that they don't need. And it's like, well, okay, if you want to move to Japan and live in a closet that costs more than, the price of overpriced real estate in Manhattan or whatever, that's on you. But most of us live in the suburbs, want to live in the suburbs. We want a bigger space. We want a yard. We don't want to be right on top of our 3,600 other neighbors, all in the same building in little cubbies. And certain stuff you're not going to buy every single year. Most people don't throw away all their Christmas decorations and buy all new ones next year because that's not cost effective. And you don't throw away all your Halloween decorations and buy all new ones next year because that's not cost effective. And you don't even throw away all your summer clothes and buy all new ones next year. Most of us, unless you're a super trendy person, because that's not cost effective. Because again, unless there's a hole in the crotch of the shorts or the seat, they're still perfectly good shorts for some activities, mowing the lawn or washing the car or whatever, And I buy a lot of stuff, even the flimsier thing like this I've had for several years because I don't wear it every day, all day, every season. I wear it, quite a bit in the end of summer, and then I put it back in the box in the garage. So the shirt is not worn out yet. It still looks about the same as it did 5 years ago. Can I wear it more? Yes, but I intentionally don't wear it all the time too because I want it to last. Because again, it's one of the only few really lightweight, breezy ones I have that I know I enjoy wearing when the weather gets kind of sticky. So I don't want to wear it out. That other Duluth one that I had that was supposed to be like that I thought was absolutely disgusting, that was one of these items. So it was in my photos last month or whatever, and it's no longer here. But that was the one where I had the armpits tailored, and I actually spent extra to get that done. But I still just never liked the feel of the fabric. So then the other question, which was not in the mantras, but in the tricks and tips, is to ask yourself, would I buy this item again at full price? Well, okay. Obviously, our answer is almost always going to be no. But again, in the moment, you don't necessarily have that choice. But it is another brain retrain, good thinking activity to do with certain things. But I mean, yeah, if I could redo my entire childhood, I wouldn't buy Converse sneakers after the age of 12 either. But again, they were $20 shoes at the time, and the Nikes were $80. You can't afford new Nikes every 3 months, even if you want them. So Converse is going to win, or Vans, maybe more often than Converse overall, from age 6 to 30 or whatever, when I was mostly still only wearing sneakers most of the time. So this video was a little bit longer than expected. Well, like I said, nobody's going to watch the whole thing unless they're really, really, really interested. But I think we covered just about everything. Like I said, if there's any questions, I didn't do a Q&A, but if there are any, you can put them in the comments and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And all that. And this is probably, or at least for now, one of the last of the kind of declutter organization kind of videos I'm going to do, because I've done several and they haven't had a lot of views. So I have a bunch in that menu or the playlist, whatever it's called. Let's lifestyle strategies, cost per wear, seasonal colors. They're all in that playlist. So you can find the ones where the people argued with me about, like I said, quibbling over, you save 60 cents over the long haul if you get all your suits tailored on Savile Row instead of C&R or whatever, Hollywood Suits or Men's Warehouse, or it's like, yeah, maybe, but I can't afford to fly to London right now to buy a new suit, so it's not going to happen. Even if they will tailor it for free down the road, which I doubt. I'm pretty sure they have a fee that they charge to refit me. And that would require another trip to London. So, yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up then, and hopefully this is useful or helpful to somebody, or let me know if it wasn't for whatever reason. It's fine too.